and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
With the seemingly sudden influx of racial issues and socially unacceptable problems going on in the world of sports, Donald Sterling raises his ugly head again, screaming to the world, "I told you so." The Atlanta Hawks find themselves in the same position as the Los Angeles Clippers, with not one, but two executive-level representatives being called out as being racist. First, owner Bruce Levinson for his emails, followed by Danny Ferry's description of Luol Deng. Ronnie, your feelings.
Well, first of all, Donald Sterling could put his head back down. I feel like these two things are completely different.
Mm-hmm.
The owner or the majority owner, Bruce Levinson, reading his email, not listening to anybody else, but just reading his email, it felt to me like a businessman trying to make more money.
And what do you mean by that?
He was trying to diagnose what he felt or what he thought was the problem as to why his arena and his merchandise are not selling as other arenas and other teams in the
Around
NBA.
the NBA, okay.
Right. So he sent an email to his employers as to what he found over the couple of years that he's owned the team as to what could lead to them not performing in this area.
And give them a little insight. What did those things include?
Merchandise not being sold. He felt like in Atlanta everything is geared towards black people and is leaving out the 35-year-old or the 45-year-old white male.
35 to 50-year-old white male.
Right. He wants to include them, which I find nothing wrong with that. Now, he did use some stereotypes, but reading the email word for word, I did not get a racist feel from it. At one point, he said he didn't care about all of that. He didn't care about, what people were there, and he definitely felt he didn't agree with the sentiments of some white people that are in the Atlanta community.
The Atlanta Hawks are a struggling team profit-wise. They're a consistently average team.
Right.
They don't have a superstar. Even when they had Joe Johnson, they didn't have a superstar. So bringing in profit alone was going to be hard for them. Unfortunately, in the world that we live in America, black people only make up 10% of the population. So marketing to black people, unfortunately, I know I'm going to get a lot of backlash for this, is not where the money is at. He's tried to do this the PC way. He's gone out and given away season tickets.
Right, in the black community, getting people involved. But in his eyes, it went a little bit too far where it excluded a certain demographic.
Exactly. And unfortunately, the black demographic, after he's given out these season tickets, are not return purchasers. They're not coming back to buy season tickets. So with that being said, apart from the terminology, the phrases that he used, I see no problem with this email. This is completely separate from what happened with Donald Sterling. Does he deserve to lose his team over this?
I thought that was a very unfortunate. For those of you who haven't read Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's piece on this, he is basically backing up what we're saying right now. Like, plenty of businesses do this. If you have a majority of white people buying your stuff, you find ways in how to include black people and vice versa. So that's all he was trying to do.
From Levinson to the individual who he hired, Danny Ferry, he also has some issues in the media going on right now. What are your feelings on that? Basically, all he did was repeat some of the, I guess we would call it, definitely unacceptable, but hurtful words spewed about Luol Deng. What do you think should happen to him? We all know that what he did was bad, what he did was wrong. The fact that he repeated these things were wrong. But what do you think should happen to him?
I think it should be handled internally. Atlanta Hawks organization should handle it. I don't think he should lose his job. I'm a bit of a realistic person. Understood.
Another little aspect that I want to address out of this, there are just so many different, problems going on in the world. And right now, race does seem to be at the forefront of all of this. In the United States, everything you pick up, every article you read, there's something about race. At this very moment in time, race is the hot button. What's the part that the media plays in all of this?
Well, first of all, this is nothing new. This has been happening at worst levels throughout the history of the United States. Now, The reason why it's such big news now is social media.
Understood. But what really makes me sad is this is really putting a black cloud over not just sports in general, but the world in general. Ronnie, I refuse to believe that there are more racist individuals out there than there are people that are not racist. I refuse to let one isolated situation just downpour an entire franchise. I echo the words of my favorite, Stephen A. Smith. There's a difference between being a racist and there's a difference between being racially insensitive or making a racially insensitive comment. Nowadays, I feel it's too easy for us to label someone as being a racist. That's one of the worst titles someone can ever wear. And it's too easy. Anyone can do it from the stroke of a key. All you got to do is just say it, and everyone runs with it. So let's do our due diligence and do our further research before we go ahead and put that label on someone.
That's what the media is failing at. It takes one person to say something and a million people to retweet it.
Exactly. So we've seen franchises turn around after devastating situations, similar to what's going on in Atlanta. Livingston is going to step down. I'm sure there's going to be a new owner that comes in. Sounds a bit repetitive, right? Didn't the Clippers just go through this?
Yeah, the Clippers actually had good players, though. So
this is what I want to ask you. Do you see the same turnaround for the Atlanta Hawks?
Not based on their history.
All right, so this is the part of the segment. One of my personal favorite parts, Ronnie Rants. What grinds your gears this week, Ronnie? What's really got you going?
Well, as we see, it's the NBA offseason. You know, everyone's talking about trades, free agents. A lot of fans are making ridiculous scenarios. It got me to thinking that most of these fans don't know what their team needs. To find out what your team needs, basically you need to know what every position is and what every position does. So that's what we'll do. We'll go over each position so some of y'all could take notes and just, pay attention and find out what your team really needs and what type of player they should be going for.
I feel what you're saying.
Not everybody's a superstar.
I feel what you're saying. It's like these people are just making up rosters. Don't seem to really understand what it means to be a true 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if you guys don't know what those numbers mean for which position it stands for,
it's a
Ronnie?
problem. Point guard, the 1. Now, the point guard doesn't need to be a scoring option. He needs to dictate the offense, basically. He should be basically the coach, an extension of the coach on the floor. He should be able to affect the game without scoring, assisting, setting up plays, making sure everybody is in the correct spot. He should be a good free throw shooter. Crunch time, the ball should be in your hands and you should be able to hit free throws. And basically on defense, you may not be a great defender, but you have to be quick and basically a pest on defense. You have to disrupt penetration from the other team. That's what makes a great point guard. Now, if you could score, average double-digit assists, then you're one of the greats. But basically, a point guard, you need to be able to do that.
Sounds a lot like Chris Paul. Keep going.
And he could do a lot more. That's why he's one of the greats. Shooting guard. You should be able to create your offense. You should be a threat. You need to be able to play defense. You should be able to space the floor, but also attack the paint. And you should be also able to create offense for others.
Sounds a lot like Kobe.
And he does a lot more. That's why he's one of the greats. Small forward, the 3. Now, this is an all-purpose position. You should be able to do a little bit of everything. You need to be able to space the floor. You need to be able to play defense. You need to be able to rebound. You should have some good size. And on defense, you should be able to switch off to multiple players. So you should be able to guard basically 1 through 4 on defense.
Sounds a lot like King James.
One of the greats. Power forward, rebounder. This is a lost art for power forwards. Enforcer, post up and a face up game. Defender, athletic, an end-to-end runner. You need to be able to run from one end of the court to the other because You're the enforcer on defense and on offense. Setting picks, cleanup guy. Also be able to rotate on defense. Stop penetration, but yet get back to protect the paint. And if you could do a lot more, you're one of the greats. Think of a Tim Duncan, Karl Malone, one of those guys.
That's what I was saying. As you were talking, I was really trying to reel in what player nowadays possesses all of everything that you were saying. However, I can think of a million players that can do that offensively, but none of them that brings that defensive category to the table. Right. So yeah, unfortunately, or not unfortunately, I do have to default to Tim Duncan there. Current players.
Now in today's NBA is the stretch four. You need to be able to shoot, all of those things.
Another deal for another day. What's your last, man?
The center. Now you need to be able to rebound and protect the paint. Yeah, the 5. You need to have some size on you. Should be able to play with your back to the basket, and you should be a defensive stopper or disruptor, clog up the paint. Basically, nowadays a big body could pose for that, but back in the day you needed to be able to do all of these things for your team to win.
I'm not even gonna lie to you. I have no one to say for this generation.
Joakim Noah.
No, he's not.
To the basket,
Nah, not really. Not really. He's not a back to the basket.
But he'll still put up some points and still give you a little bit of something. So
none
he's
of these
the closest.
Players are players that you throw the ball down to in the post nowadays and you tell them to go to work. Even Mark is playing right off the elbow. Honestly, I really don't believe there's any more 5s in this league as of today. Impactful 5s, not your enforcers. Dude, his back to the basket sucks. If Dwight is not powering something over someone, he's really not scoring. He's been working on his game. He's been potential for years.
Nah, he's a center. He has some moves.
Dwight Howard is 6'10". Enough said. So what's your closing arguments for this, man?
Well, I want to get to the bench because for most teams, these 5 positions, the starting 5, you already have covered if you're a good team, but you still need a bench. Mm-hmm. So on the bench, you should have your 6th man who's capable of being a starter. He brings energy off the bench, and he's usually a scorer. And then the bench is also comprised of specialists. So you have a 3-point shooter, you have a defender, you have a rebounder, you have a big guy, and sometimes a scoring point guard. Think about it, they're getting 15, 20 minutes a game. They're coming in there for a specific reason. You need some big threes, you need some energy, you need some more rebounding, you need a big guy. So they should be specialists, and basically that's how you build a team.
So I don't know if you were keeping track of this, but as you were going through your 1 through 5,
saw you jotting.
I've been making those little mentions, and I wrote down the ones that every mention that I said as you closed out your argument for each position. And people talking about building people talking about building a team. Just right off the top, how ill would this team be? Chris Paul, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Tim Duncan. And just because you said Dwight as the 5, we'll throw Dwight in there as well.
One thing off the bat, I don't know if you noticed this.
Go ahead.
But just going off what I said and then seeing what you wrote down, all those players are great offensive players
and defensive players. Something lacking for majority of these players, James Harden. With the first week of the NFL wrapping up, we had some great actions, from unexpected but predictable outcomes from the Dallas game to surprising upsets of Miami over the New England Patriots. People are already making bold predictions on just about every single award category that there is, from MVP to Super Bowl champs to comeback player of the year. So, off that note, I pose this question. We have some, players that's been injured. We haven't really seen in action. Derrick Rose, Kobe Bryant, the return of Rose, or the return of the Black Mamba. Who's going to have the better return? Who's going to be comeback player of the year?
I think Kobe will have the better return. Derrick Rose definitely needs to have the better return. He's younger, has a lot more years. But looking at his game and looking during the FIBA World Tournament here, we're not seeing a change that we all wanted to see in Derrick Rose's game. We know he has that explosion, the attacking, but we all wanted to see him become more of a traditional point guard who shows flashes of attacking when needed. But Derrick Rose is a great player. He'll figure it out, and he has a great system and coach behind him.
We have the USA basketball to base a sample size off Derrick Rose. But Kobe, however, aside from an onslaught of articles touching on how he has been training and how he plans to tailor his game to suit his newfound limitations, we don't really have much. I haven't seen him. There's not been any documented footage. So it's definitely easier for me to sit here and tell you Rose will have a better season than Kobe. However, I'm leaning to the Black Mamba.
And what we've seen from Kobe this offseason, we've seen the mental side. We've seen where he's far superior than these other players.
Mm-hmm. So there's some barriers that these guys have to overcome. Stacked against him, Kobe has his age, an injury in his Achilles that we haven't seen any superstar athlete overcome, especially this late in their career. And he also has a roster full of potential, but no help. But we do know this, Ronnie. Kobe is Kobe. He tried to return a little bit too fast last year. His body wasn't ready, and he didn't really have an offseason to really train and get ready and get his body into shape. Now, this time around, he did.
Right.
The Kobe we saw December 9th against the Toronto Raptors is not going to be the Kobe we see on the 28th of October.
Right.
If not for nothing else, he's not going to be the 2006 Kobe where he averaged 35.4 points a game, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists. That's unrealistic. But this is for certain. Kobe is an assassin. Kobe has proved to be, if not the best basketball mind in the league, one of the best basketball minds of all time, ever. And he is definitely one of the best skilled players to ever touch a basketball.
He is the best.
And guess who he's been trying to model his game? Guess who he's been researching to model his game a little bit after?
Paul Pierce.
And if Paul Pierce can do it, Kobe Bryant can definitely do it. You know, had that little old-timer YMCA game. Now that I've done that stuff with Kobe, let's touch on Derrick Rose. Think about this. Kobe's old, Rose is young. Kobe is a skilled basketball player. Nowadays, Rose is pure athleticism. From his strength, his power, quickness, and size over all the other guards playing the same position. Maybe except for Russell Westbrook.
And that's exactly what I was alluding to before. Rose has been focusing on getting his body back to what it was before.
The ACL tear.
Right.
And then the meniscus tear.
Right. He should realize that maybe the way I'm playing is not the best way to play for a long career. But you have to attack the game from a mental side.
So check this out. I've been watching the USA Basketball FIBA games, and I've been watching how Rose has been playing. He seems to have gotten his athleticism back.
Right.
If you don't believe me, check out that play where they put him in the game with the last 4 seconds before halftime, and he got it. He beat not one, but 2 defenders from back court, ran all the way up court, shot a little floater, a little running floater, and walked off the court before the ball just dropped inside the basket. If that's not enough for you, check that play he had against Finland a couple weeks ago when he crossed that dude real quick and just bam, slammed one home.
He definitely
got
got
his athleticism back.
He definitely got that back. Now,
so athleticism isn't an issue.
It's not.
So why don't we believe he's gonna have a great return?
Because athleticism wasn't an issue last year either when he came back. Remember? He came back in shape.
Against the Miami Heat.
Right.
And guess what his stats were looking at that game? Rose shot 4 of 15 for 12 points.
Which the rust is normal. Every NBA player is going to come back with rust off of the offseason.
And then the next game against the Knicks, Rose shot 7 of 23.
Definitely.
With 5 turnovers. So do the math. That's a roughly 31% shooting, 9 turnovers, and he only had 7 assists in those games. In USA Basketball, he's shooting 21%.
Right.
So couple that with what we just discussed about his return last year, shooting 31%. He's shooting 21% this year. This is what I truly feel, Ronnie, right? I think when Rose comes back, what's going to happen is people are going to see flashes, glimpses, great performances, just like that crossover and dunk that I just showed you. And they're going to use that one instance to say, Rose is back. Rose is back. But one good game and then 5 bad games. One good game and then 6 bad games. When I say bad games for Derrick Rose, I mean par. Exactly.
Not
Exactly.
superstar games.
Exactly.
And that's what I fully expect from him. I want to see him become more of a traditional point guard. He has to have those aspects for the Bulls to win.
I truly believe Kobe's going to have a better comeback season. He's a better skilled player. And I definitely see the Lakers making the playoffs. They're going to be bottom feeders,
Just
but we're
remember where you
making
heard
the
it
playoffs.
first. Just remember that.
We're making the playoffs. In the words of Pusha T.
Yeah.
All right, all. Thanks for joining this week. Don't forget to subscribe and RSVP for next week's show. For Ronnie Jean, I'm Jonah Francis. Follow us on Twitter at RSVP Sports. RSVP Sports. What we say today matters tomorrow.